Everybody, yeah, like I said, we're going to look at an HHO cell wiring diagram with an EFI and PWM, or pulse width modulator. And as we know, we already have our 12-volt DC battery, and we have to have power going to our cell. So we'll have a negative line going to our cell, and we'll finish up that side a little bit later. Let's first go to the positive side. We have our line, and the first thing that we want to look at right now is, again, a resettable circuit breaker or a 30 amp inline fuse. Now, I went to a few auto parts stores where I live, and none of them had a resettable circuit breaker, so I had to settle for the 30 amp inline fuse. So, yeah, go figure. The next thing that we have is the relay, and one part of it is the ground goes to the chassis of the vehicle. We talked about that before. And we also have a line continuing on to our on-off DC switch. Again, there is AC switches and DC switches, so don't make that mistake. And this switch can be installed in the dashboard of your vehicle, or if you don't want to cut it up or anything, you can just put it into a box and have it inside your vehicle. And again, we talked about if you wanted to go even a step further and get a little bit more high-tech, you could look for and find the power line that goes from your ignition, so when you insert the key into your ignition and turn your vehicle on, that would also supply the power going to your system. And again, you could use the on-off switch, DC switch, to either have the system on or off, or if somebody like your significant other doesn't really understand this HHO stuff, he or she can just turn the switch off and just drive with the regular vehicle as it is. So we continue on from the relay, and we talked about in the last video about having an EFI, or electronic fuel injection enhancer whoozy thingy. And again, it's going to be grounded to the vehicle chassis, and one line is going to go to the computer and the other one is going to go to the oxygen sensor. Now again, this is only if you have one oxygen sensor, and if you have two, you have to keep that in mind. So make sure you check your vehicle and what it requires, and again, this is all at your own risk. We continue on and we run that 12-volt positive line to our PWM. Now, on the PWM that I purchased, it's a 30 amp PWM, and it has 4 blade contacts. And so that 12-volt line went to the outside left of the PWM, and that's where it goes. So that's where the incoming power goes. Next, we have our negative line that goes from the battery, our 12-volt battery, and goes to the outside blade of the PWM. And again, we continue on with the 2 middle blade connectors, and where we have a positive line going to our HHO cell. And we also have a negative line going from the inside of our PWM that goes out, and those 2 middle connections that's the power that's being turned up or turned down. In other words, the volts and the amps, at least on the PWM that I have, the 2 inside connectors is the power that's going out to your cell. But make sure that you check the directions of your cell and the little schematic, because you don't want to damage your PWM. Now let's say if we want to have an amp meter. We can stick an amp meter on that negative line going from our PWM en route to our HHO cell, and so we'd have the amp meter there, and then have from the amp meter going to the negative terminal on our HHO cell. So that way we could watch the amps go up and down and put that meter inside the vehicle, in the vehicle cab, and we could check that out. Now if you also wanted to, you could put a voltmeter, and you would put the voltmeter on those 2 inside blades, on the 2 inside lines, the positive and the negative, and that would actually show when you rotate that knob, or the potentiometer, or the pot as they call it, that you would also be able to see the volts go up and down as you rotate that knob. So anyway, that's it. That's the with the EFI and a pulse width modulator. Talked about. Okay.